Caught in the crossfire. It's caught in the
What's up, guys? Lance the Obscure Movie Guy coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. Today's video is done in partnership with the B Stream. So if you're not familiar with the B Stream, get familiar. It is a new streaming service that specializes in B movies, B horror, B comedy, B action. So anything that is B movie related, it is on the B Stream. You can join up now, download on your iOS or through the App Store, $5.99 a month to stream all the movies that you want, completely ad-free and uncensored. The movies are unedited and intended to be seen the way that the director intended it to be seen. So go to thebstream.com and sign up today. Now let's dive into today's video. Fresh off the block, 2026's VHS Summer Camp.
This weekend, it's gonna be wicked.
I gotta say, I wasn't too sure about this place on the drive up, but it's kind of bitchin'.
About the party favors.
Oh!
You talking about the evil campsite?
Something feels off.
Crazy, man.
Am I?
Yeah.
You wanna go, man? Huh?
Yeah, I'll take you anything.
You saw something.
This place, we don't belong here.
There's a voice in that tape.
You said I was gonna die.
VHS Summer Camp was written and directed by James Pinard and stars Sean Thompson, Drake Clois, Juliana Paris, Alexa Camo, and Grace. And I'm just going to call her Grace because my dyslexia will not allow me to try and pronounce her last name. It looks like Shih Tzu, and I know that's not correct. VHS Summer Camp tells the story of a group of college students that were hired to clean up an old abandoned campground by Shane and Dana, played by Sean Thompson and Lexi Baca. And they think they're there to clean up this camp and get it back up and running, when realistically they were hired and brought there for much more nefarious reasons. And the film starts off with a nice, quick, concise opening sequence where you basically have a VHS tape playing, almost like a movie within a movie, kind of telling a little bit of background of the campground itself and a little bit of a revelation to the things that have happened at the campground in the past. Shortly after that, we're introduced to our group of college kids who, like I said, have been hired on to clean up this campground. And there's a guy for every girl and a girl for every guy. And there's definitely some animosity between some of the characters as they arrive. Exes, boyfriends, girlfriends, new boyfriends, girlfriends. So there was a bit of animosity between some of the characters that played out pretty well throughout the course of the film. So shortly after the introduction, and even kind of during the introduction of characters, you start to see some things from the characters that allude to, potential issues with the campground. One of the characters kind of seems like he knows a little bit more than he should. You've got another character that's kind of questioning why they're there and doesn't really trust, Shane and Dana as to bringing them to the campground. One claims to be a witch, one's seeing people in the woods, one feels like it's being followed. There's another one that's hearing things, which is kind of cool because all of the characters, none of them are kind of seeing the same or hearing the same thing. So each character kind of gets its own little foreshadowing, I guess is the best way to put it. One character hears something that the others don't. Another character sees something that the others don't. One character gets visions in his head and can't tell if it's a dream or if it's real or if it's the future. So each character kind of has its own little superpower, as it would seem, in the film. Nobody's But every time somebody sees something or hears something, a lot of the other characters are quick to disregard it. You didn't see that, you didn't hear that, you don't know that. So it was kind of cool how every single character had its own little take on what's going on at the campground. Now, I don't want to give too much away in the way of the plot, but yes, Shane and Dana did bring these college kids to the campground for much more nefarious reasons. Uh, there is going to be kills, there is going to be human sacrifice, there is going to be witchcraft. You'll just have to watch and see how all of those things fall in line with the story in and of itself. And realistically, you don't have to wait too terribly long into the film to find out a little bit of the background of why those kids are there, because around the 20-minute mark, you do get a bit of a reveal in the storytelling as to what the intentions are with Shane and Dana and why those kids are there. So there's no grand reveal at the end of this film, which was kind of nice. You're kind of getting the reveal a little bit early, and then you're just kind of sitting and watching and seeing how that storyline is going to play out through the rest of the film. Now, the pacing does slow down a little bit going into the second act, and it does become a little bit more dialogue heavy. And I will say that some of the dialogue is kind of predictive dialogue, which you've kind of heard or seen, or you could kind of figure it was going to be coming anyways. But it does feel like there is some specific dialogue and some specific lines written into the dialogue that is made there to specifically move the plot along, you know, during this act. So it is kind of, if you pay attention to what they're saying, you are going to pick up on some fine details of the story and alluding to what's coming down the pipeline. Now, the production quality of the film is pretty good. The cinematography is pretty good. The picture quality is pretty good. There's a couple of audio issues here and there every once in a while in certain scenes. And some of the editing is a little choppy in a couple spots. But overall, pretty decent production quality. And I may just be biased and don't want to chastise them too much because I know most of the people that worked on this film and am working with some of those people currently on the Hive. But there was a couple of audio issues and a couple of editing issues. But for the most part, the production quality overall is pretty good. Now, as much as I liked this movie and appreciate the work that went into it, it's not without its shortcomings. There is a few plot holes that don't necessarily get explored. And and this might just be me nitpicking, but I do feel like there was a little bit of a Chekhov's gun in one scene where you have one of the characters going upstairs and there's just a decorative paddle like hanging on the wall at the top of the steps, and he kind of, stops and inspects it, and I'm like, oh, that's something you could definitely fucking hit somebody with later in the movie. But he never does anything with it. And that might just be me nitpicking, but I feel like if you're going to take the time to show something that could be used as a potential weapon later in the film, then use it as one. That's the whole thing with Chekhov's gun. Don't show a prop if you don't have the intention of using it later on in the film. Some of the plot holes, you don't really get a lot of explanation on some of the characters' abilities. So you have one guy that, he watches these VHS tapes and they essentially allude to the future killings of some of his friends. And you don't know, is that just specific to him? Is it specific to the tapes themselves? You have one girl that's, claims she's a witch, but there's really not a whole lot of backstory into how or why she knows what she knows. You have another character that can see people in the woods from, dead people. I see dead people. And you don't really, you kind of get an idea of what's going on with her, but then you also have some dead people in the woods that, are glowing white, and then some that just look like a farmer boy. So why is one different than the other? So there's a lot left on the table as far as the story goes. I feel like part of that was done intentionally, because it does seem like they left room for a sequel, and I think they've got a good overall story that they could actually kind of turn this into a VHS franchise type thing. So I feel like some of that storyline was left on the table, not to give too much away now, because they want to explain more in the sequel or sequels. But there is a few plot holes that kind of leave you scratching your head, like, I would have liked to known a little bit more about that, or that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So. But like I said, as much as I enjoyed it, it's not without its shortcomings, but it doesn't completely detract you from the movie. You can still watch it and still enjoy the film. And you do get some pretty decent acting from most of the cast. Sean Thompson, he's done a lot of horror stuff. He plays a good bad guy. He plays a good guy. And working with him on The Hive and knowing him personally, it's kind of cool to see how he is, behind the camera and just face to face in real life versus the character that he has to portray. So it's like you see him do these like mean things, and you're like, that's not the Sean I know. So that's kind of cool. Grace did a great job. Again, I'm not even going to try and pronounce her last name. It's just not in my lexicon. And she was really good with when we were filming her, so she did really good in this as well. Really convincing actress. Alexa Camo, and I'm probably saying her name wrong as well, but Alexa did a great job. I think she probably had the most comprehensive character. Her character arc was very up and down emotionally because she's dating this guy, but his ex is there, and she's seeing other people that are kind of cheating and they shouldn't be. So she had a very complex character to portray, and I think she did a great job doing it. Juliana Paris, she also did a really good job. And Drake Clovis, probably the best of the male actors as far as the college kids are concerned. So the acting is pretty stout for the most part. Now, there's not a lot of special effects in this film, but the special effects that are there are pretty good. There's a really good knife throat slice done to one of the characters. Don't want to give away who. But that was pretty cool. And Connor Hayes was the special effects artist on set for this film, and he's also done the special effects for The Hive. And I'm glad that they kind of made that a focal point for him. He does really good work. He's a very prepared special effects artist, and I would love to see more of his stuff in a grander fashion. But he's been pretty cool to work with. The special effects that he did in this was really good. So kid's got a bright future. And I do want to give a shout out to my man, John Patrick Wilson. He was one of the ADs on this film. And if he was anything on VHS Summer Camp like he is on The Hive, he tries to run a tight ship. Most of us don't make it easy for him. But John's a really cool dude to work with. And I know a lot of the stuff that happens behind scenes, at least for us, was because of him directing that ship and trying to keep us on track as best he can. A lot of us have ADD. So John's, he's more of a corraller. He's got to corral us more than anything. So, but like I said, if he had to do anything on VHS Summer Camp like he's had to do on The Hive, he's a really cool dude to work with, and he tries to run a tight ship, but like I said, we don't make it easy for him. Overall, this is a pretty good film with a solid foundation. I feel like they did leave a lot on the table as far as the story goes, but I also feel like some of that was done intentionally. So I'm hoping that there is a sequel coming down the pipeline, sequel or sequels. I could see this potentially being like an independent film franchise, the whole VHS thing. I love the concept of that. And they do allude to a sequel with another VHS tape towards the end of the film, but you'll just have to watch and find out what that tape has on it. So it's pretty cool. I like what they've got going on. Like I said, it's a solid foundation. I wish they would explore the storytelling aspect a little bit more. So maybe we'll see what happens in the second one. But guys, check out VHS Summer Camp. It's currently available on the B Stream. It's currently available on Amazon Prime. And you can like, subscribe, and comment on my YouTube channel. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram. I'll see everybody in the next video.